Hello, dear friends, and welcome to the weekly forecast for the week between the 22nd and the 28th of April. So, here you can see the positions of the planets in the signs. Here are the exact degrees, the signs. Here is the date that we are watching, and here you can find the aspects. Of course, I'm going to discuss the more important one, and we are going to analyze them. So let's start with Saturday the 22nd and Sunday the 23rd. So during both of these days we have the transit moon in Pisces. So on Saturday the transit moon is even in conjunction with Neptune, which you know is the ruler of Pisces, which intensifies even more this Pisces energy. So this energy, the Pisces energy is not very good for, hard work, for putting a lot of effort, for trying to accomplish something which requires from you to be very grounded. Pisces is not such an energy. Instead, it is a great time, for example, for some kind of creative activities, or even for taking a rest, or for some kind of things which are more related with some kind of inner work, which will allow you to be more focused on your inner experiences, and it won't require from you to be very active socially. So we can say that Saturday and Sunday are great for taking a rest, or for those who, for example, would like to go dancing somewhere. Pisces is a great energy that supports that kind of activities, or if you have some kind of artistic hobbies, or for example if you would like to help somebody else. Usually we are more emotional when the moon is in Pisces, especially on Saturday, when the moon is also in conjunction with Neptune. You can be even over emotional, like you can cry easier, especially those who are generally more emotional. On Saturday, when we have this aspect between the moon and Neptune, you should be careful with all kinds of medications. You should be careful with alcohol and other substances, because Neptune is related with these things. And when the moon is in conjunction with Neptune, we can be more sensitive. So, for example, if you are taking sleeping pills, you may need a smaller quantity of the medication. Otherwise, you might be, oversleepy, or the influence is stronger of all kinds of medications, including the alcohol. So just be aware of that. On Sunday, so on the 23rd, we have also the transit moon making conjunction with Venus, which is almost in the last degree of Pisces. And at the same time, it will activate the square between Venus and Saturn that we are experiencing for such a long time. Generally, the conjunction between the moon and Venus is great for all kinds of activities related with women, for everything related with beauty, with art, with romantic relationships, with partnerships, everything actually which includes Venus. But here the situation is a little bit more complicated, because on the other hand, the square with Saturn suggests that even though we might be spending time on these activities, they might be not so easy for us. For example, if you have some kind of artistic project, or if you need to communicate with women, it might be more about something related with obligations, something that you have to do because of Saturn. And it's difficult because I told you that Pisces energy, where we have the moon and Venus, it's related with taking a rest, just leaving everything, and imagination, spending more time on imagination instead of real hard work. But Saturn is actually the opposite. Saturn is the planet that requires you to be grounded, to be focused on the current situation, paying attention and taking care of your responsibilities. So on Sunday there might be a little conflict between these two desires, and the moon actually will activate this square probably for the last time, and Venus is still moving very slow because recently it was retrograde, so it takes some time before Venus start moving with with the normal speed for Venus. So that's why we have this aspect, this square between Venus and Saturn for such a long time, actually for a few weeks. We are going to experience the influence of this square, Venus-Saturn square, until Friday, at least. On Friday, but we are going to discuss that there is a little shift in the energy. So, next we have Monday, so the 24th of April, Monday, and we start the week with the moon in Aries. So that's a great time to, be more active, be more initiative. Usually we can feel more energy that we are ready to start something. But be prepared that on the other hand, we are very close to the new moon. So on the 26th, we are going to have a new moon. So probably during these days, you should avoid starting new things. So on the 24th, Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, when we have the moon so close to the sun, you should avoid the new beginnings because the moon will be invisible. And you can be really active because when the moon is in Aries, it's a beneficial time to be, to do something, to, you can be more impulsive, you might want to take some initiatives, but just be aware that when the moon is invisible, it's not the great time to start some new projects. So on the 25th, the situation is very interesting because, so 25th, this is Tuesday, so, Thursday. So on Thursday, we have the transit moon in conjunction with Uranus and the Mercury retrograde. So this is a very interesting combination. Of course, Mercury and Uranus are in conjunction as well. And the moon will only activate more this aspect. So basically we are focusing on the conjunction between Mercury retrograde and Uranus in Aries. That's a very interesting conjunction because both of these planets are related with our mind. Mercury is the more practical mind, the small things that you need to do, the rational mind. But Uranus is related with the inspiration, with the higher ideas, with something which is very untraditional, very, really extraordinary. So when we have conjunction between Mercury and Uranus, plus Uranus is, really closely related to Mercury. So when we have this conjunction, that's a great time for some kind of intellectual work, for having some ideas. And because Mercury is retrograde, probably this is something related with the past. For example, some ideas that you used to have but you have forgotten, something didn't work for you. Now, surprisingly, because we have Uranus, surprisingly things might change in a way that you haven't expected, you haven't predicted, and the moon there will bring even more energy. So that's a great time for some kind of intellectual work. So that's on Thursday. Intellectual work, some ideas, some, really untraditional decisions that you might take. On the other hand, we need to pay attention that Saturn is making trine with actually all of these three planets in Aries, so with the moon, Uranus, and Mercury retrograde. And Saturn is a planet that can bring stabilization. So if, for example, you're really impatient, you want, you can't wait for things to happen, and you're really nervous because the strong Aries energy can bring that feeling. On the other hand, Saturn can make you a little bit more grounded. it can make you able to wait a little bit. You may still want to make some changes because Uranus is the planet of changes, but Saturn will help you to be more grounded and to find the most practical way to achieve your goals. And this is a very interesting trine actually between Saturn and Uranus, and these planets are generally not friends with each other. So even the positive aspects between them can bring certain tension. Of course, it's much less when it is a harmonious aspect, like in this case, because Uranus is the planet of changes, of destroying things, starting something totally new. And Saturn is the planet that makes you focused on what you have. It's related with avoiding changes, with trying to keep, the current situation that you're in. So when we have Uranus-Saturn trining, actually this is a great time when you can change some kind of structure, make some kind of reorganizations. So this can be a very interesting time when we have this trine, and we have it for a long time, of course, because they are moving very fast, very slow. But now we have Mercury retrograde and the Moon activating this trine, so we can feel it really strong. And so we have so actually this was Tuesday, so I'm sorry, Mercury is retrograde when I'm recording that, so some mistakes are possible. I apologize. So we have this interesting combination on Tuesday. So the 25th is Tuesday. And the 26th, which is Wednesday, we have the new moon. We're going to have a different video where we are going to talk in details about the meaning of this concrete new moon, the aspects, how it can influence each of the signs. But generally we know that this is the time when there is a really intense energy related with the sign. In this case, of course, the new moon is in Taurus, so the main topics are about our stability, about our resources, financial situation, and so on. But of course, as I told you, when the moon is invisible, it's not the best time to start something. So you can make some plans, of course, and we have still Mercury retrograde, but it's not the greatest time to start something totally new. And so on the 27th, which is Thursday, what do we have? We still have the moon in Taurus. So when the moon is in Taurus, what's typical, and we have also the sun there, so there's lots of Taurus energy around. Taurus is a sign related with patience. Taurus is the sign related with things happen slowly, or you need to wait a little bit before you start something. So so during these days when we have the moon in Taurus, we should be more patient. This is a great time, for example, to focus on your nutrition, to focus on things that will improve your energy and your physical condition as well. What else do we have? So next on Friday, on the 28th, we have Venus entering Aries. This is a more important transit because probably you remember that recently we had Venus retrograde, and most of the time Venus was retrograde in Aries. So now that Venus is entering the same sign again and will move through the same degrees, we may have the opportunity to change the things that didn't work for us. For example, of course, it depends on which house Venus is transiting in your horoscope, but the things that didn't work during this period or the problems that you might have faced, now you can find solutions. Now things might be smoother for you. Of course, about relationships, about money, the situation can be, can move on a different level. On the other hand, Venus in Aries is not strong. So Venus actually rules the opposite sign Libra, which means that it is in a weak position in Aries. And typical for, harmonious behavior, the polite behavior, the kindness, which is typical for Venus, we lose all of these qualities when Venus is in Aries. So actually the emotions are more superficial. I mean, and when I say superficial, it means that we are showing them much more, because this is a very extroverted sign, Aries. So you may notice that people are tend, to express more their emotions, can be more impatient. Some kind of conflicts might be possible as well. In the romantic area, which is not necessary, but is possible to happen. And in general, we can change. Actually, this is the most. That's why this ingression is really important, because we can change something. The other reason why this ingression is important is that now that Venus moves to Aries, the square with Saturn won't be felt so strong. Yes, we have this aspect because the orbis is very small. You see, Saturn is on the 28th degree in Sagittarius, Venus is just on the 1st degree in Aries. So we have the orbis for the aspect, but the signs where we have these two planets are actually not in a normal squares. Actually, they are trining each other. Sagittarius and Aries are in harmony with each other. So these aspects have a different influence. And even if the situation starts on the aspect, on the square, which might be related with difficulties, challenges, emotional restrictions, we have talked about this aspect. But the difference is that after that, so after a little bit, after some time passes, we may feel the harmonious energy between the signs. So in general, we should say that the general atmosphere, emotional atmosphere, everything in terms of relationships and contact can improve. On Friday also we have the transit moon in Gemini, in conjunction with Mars and in trine with Jupiter. So when the moon is in conjunction with Mars, usually we might be more impatient. Some conflicts are possible. People can be a little bit ruder, and everything can happen really fast. The positive side is that here we have Jupiter supporting the moon, which is a great aspect, probably one of the best in astrology, which suggests that the activities that you start, because on moon conjunction Mars, you can start a lot of things, you can be more initiative, and Jupiter will help you to expand your activities, to grow what you have started. So that's a very harmonious combination. And because we have the moon in Gemini, we can say that Friday will be a great day for traveling, for negotiations, for something related with writing, speaking, everything which is associated with Gemini, actually. Learning as well. So this day should be very interesting. Don't forget that actually almost the whole during the whole week we have still the conjunction between the retrograde Mercury and Uranus, which means that all kind of surprises can be expected. So expect the unexpected. There might be very interesting circumstances around us, and we may need to react really, really fast. So these were the most important indications, and thank you very much for listening.